All right, let's get right into it. We've all seen this promise, right? Use AI, automate your workflows, and magically get 20 hours of your week back. It sounds incredible, a total game changer for anyone who feels like they're drowning in busy work. But is it actually real?
Well, our source material pulls no punches. It kind of voices that little bit of doubt you might already have. You know the story. You spend a weekend building your first automation, it works for a day, then it breaks. Suddenly, you're right back to doing things manually, and you're just wondering, wait, where's all that free time I was promised?
So here's the thing. Based on data tracked across dozens and dozens of real-world workflows, that magic 20-hour number, it's wrong.
The real achievable number is actually better. It's 23.5 hours a week. So this isn't a myth. But, and this is a huge but, it only works if you know how to spot and avoid the hidden traps that trip almost everyone else up. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack.
So, first things first, let's talk about why that initial promise feels so hollow for so many people. It all comes down to understanding the real cost of entry, the stuff that most guides just kind of gloss over.
The expectation is that this stuff is set it and forget it. You just plug it in and you're done. The reality? Well, it's more like an 11 to 12 hour setup tax on your very first workflow. And look, it's not because you're slow, it's because you're not just building. You're learning an entirely new skill. You're wrestling with APIs, figuring out the tool's weird logic, and realizing your data is way messier than you thought. Honestly, this is the hurdle where most people give up, just before it gets good.
Okay, so let's say you push through. You pay that setup tax and your workflow is up and running. Awesome. But then a few months go by and you notice you're not really saving as much time anymore. Why? Well, let's meet the two silent killers that are responsible.
First up is something called automation decay. Now, what's so sneaky about this one is that your workflow isn't breaking because you built it badly. Nope, it's breaking because the world around it doesn't stand still. Your company switches to a new software, marketing adds a new field to a form, your team changes a process, and your once perfect automation just quietly starts to fail.
And you can see the impact right here. You start out strong, saving a solid 4 hours a week, but you fast forward 6 months and suddenly you're saving less than 2 hours, and you might even be spending time just fixing it. The savings just wither away if you aren't watching out for it.
The second silent killer is exception creep. So your automation is a rock star at handling, say, 85% of cases. But that other 15%, the weird edge cases, they need a human to look at them. And at first, that's totally fine. It's manageable. But over time, new types of exceptions pop up. And that 15% starts to creep up to 20%, then 30%, until you feel like all you're doing is managing the exception. So if we're fighting against decay and creep, how do we actually hit that 23.5-hour goal? The secret isn't just to build more automations. It's about building the right kind of automations. We need to shift our thinking from just saving time to creating value that multiplies.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got a simple notification workflow. It pings you on Slack. Cool. Saves you 5 minutes. But on the right, you have a compounding workflow. This thing doesn't just save you 15 minutes, it saves the sales team 30 minutes, and it helps personalize marketing emails. It creates a ripple effect of efficiency across the whole company. That's where the massive wins are hiding.
So where do you find these gold mines? They're usually hiding in plain sight. You're looking for any process that has a bunch of manual steps, one after the other. And especially any task where you see someone acting like a human API, just copying data from one system and pasting it into another. Things like customer onboarding, lead handoffs, generating reports, these are absolute gold.
Okay, now for the playbook. Let's get really tactical. Here's a practical guide for building these things in a way that dodges all the traps we've been talking about.
The strategy is surprisingly simple. Don't try to automate everything at once. First, just do a quick time audit. Find those annoying tasks that take more than 15 minutes and that you have to do over and over. Then prioritize them with a simple formula. How often you do it times how long it takes. And here's the most important part. Build one workflow, get it working, and really understand it before you even think about starting the next one. That's how you build momentum and learn as you go.
Now, choosing a tool can feel super overwhelming, but this breakdown keeps it simple. If you're just starting out and using common tools, Zapier is fantastic. If you need to handle more complex logic or a higher volume of tasks, Make is probably a better fit. And if you're dealing with sensitive data or need to build something really custom, a self-hosted option like N8N is your best bet. The key is just picking the right tool for the job.
And once you've got the basics down, you can start to level up. For instance, instead of letting errors interrupt you all day, you can send them to an exception queue and just fix them all in one batch. To build things faster, you can create reusable subflows. Think of them like Lego bricks for your automations. And finally, you can build a simple monitoring dashboard to see at a glance if everything is running smoothly. This is how you build a system that's truly robust.
All right, and that brings us to the final and maybe most important idea. A lot of people hit that 20-hour mark and then they just stop. To break past that plateau, you have to fundamentally change how you think about the purpose of all this.
This is the core philosophy right here. The real win isn't just having an empty to-do list. It's about automating all the soul-crushing, repetitive, low-value work, the copy-pasting, the data entry, the report pulling. Why? So you can free up your actual brain power for the strategic, creative, high-impact work that only a human can do, the stuff that actually moves the needle.
So, as we wrap this up, the question you should be asking isn't just, how many hours can I save? It's a much more powerful question. What am I going to accomplish with all the time I get back? Because that is the true measure of success.